Chapter 1. Here comes our angel with her freshly fucked glow. Jason snickered at me from the other side of the barred door to his cell. Return to have a romp with the criminal? Fucked your way to the top, only to slide back down to the bottom. I tried not to raise to his bait. Jason hated it when I accompanied Captain Cronin to his personal cabin to play the role of concubine. Jason knew the cats couldn't really have sex with human females, and I had explained to him many times what the captain wanted from me, but Jason still harassed me endlessly. What I do for him has probably saved your life. He treats me well, and you benefit too. Due to the captain's generosity with me, I was able to gather quality food for myself and Jason, far better than the liquid gruel the Gran fed the worker drones. The captain unlocked the cell door, and I nodded to him and walked inside. Strangely, returning to lock up with Jason felt like coming home. I set aside the small basket of bread the captain let me take from the cafeteria and went straight to Jason. I wrapped my arms around him, though he tried to turn away from me. You're the only one I want, Jason. We have no one but each other. The scrutiny of his eyes proved he suspected I might be lying. I may not be capable of actual intercourse with the large, cat-like male who claimed me for his concubine, but I could serve his sexual needs. I served him very well. The captain had learned my secrets, all of them. He knew how to trip my pain switch. He knew I was something more than human, and he knew how to use me to his benefit. Though they looked like tall, lanky cats standing upright, the Gran were not stupid. The Gran developed jump ship technology centuries before humanity made the mistake of jumping into their quadrant of space. As a prisoner on this grand jump ship bound for the far reaches of the galaxy, I had learned to appreciate their intelligence and cunning. Captain Cronin had proven to be a highly perceptive master. I'd never admitted to Jason the full extent of what the captain did for me, and how much I enjoyed it. If Jason understood the truth, he'd probably hate me just for being born. So, why do you always come back flushed and smiling, like you've been rode hard and put away wet? He reached down and unbuckled my belt, loosening my skirt that barely covered my front and back. The belt and fabric fell to the floor at my feet, leaving me mostly naked. Bared to Jason, with the captain watching from the barred cell door, I was forever trading my body from one lover to another, while lying to them both. Jason dipped his hand down between my legs into my wet, ready folds. I bit my lip with the sweet sensation of 2 fingers curling up inside me. I moaned as he slipped out and brought his hand to his nose. You been fucking someone, or something. I looked back to the captain, who adjusted the large lump beneath his skirt, the same style of skirt I wore. Hand at his crotch, he growled and chuckled, winked at me, and walked away. Since when did he wink? The captain had been adopting nuances of human communication since the day he kidnapped me from New Gene Station. Jason's attitude grated on my weary soul. Lack of sleep will do that. I'd been going too hard for too long and constantly drunk on the captain's bottomless supply of liquor. Occasionally, I managed to catch sleep in the captain's quarters, or a quick nap with Jason. But lately, I'd been too busy serving them both to rest. I have no love for the captain or the Gran, Jason. Can you please accept the role I have on this ship? I live it every day. The least you can do is endure for me. For us. I enjoyed the illusion that this man and I were a couple. Mostly we were a breeding experiment for the Gran. an experiment that I would fail miserably. I was born sterile. All clones were sterile. I had tried to convince Captain Cronin of this fact, but he thought I was being obstinate. I didn't have the heart to tell Jason I could never give him a child. So, I performed diligently, every day, in attempt to conceive the child that would never happen. I shouldn't complain. Though I couldn't procreate, I thoroughly enjoyed trying. Jason reached behind me and undid the strap on my tiny bra and tossed it aside. The thing barely covered my nipples, almost ornamental. Apart from my metal collar that marked me as property of the Grand Empire, my bra and skirt lying on the floor were the only clothes I owned, courtesy of Captain Cronin. My jumpsuit had been shredded weeks ago from my one attempt at rebellion when I took on 4 of the Gran at once. Their claw marks on my skin healed in no time, but my clothing didn't survive. I suspected my belted skirt outfit had come from some grand female that had once entertained the captain aboard this ship. Since the captain and all his warriors wore similar belted skirts, I assumed their clothing was part of the captain's pretend routine. He dressed me like the Gran, sprayed female cat mating pheromones all over me, and then pretended to fuck me as hard as he could. Not quite pretend. The only thing the captain and I hadn't done yet was fit his monstrous cock inside me. Everything else had been tried, repeatedly. I was the only female aboard ship, human or Gran, and Cronin took full advantage of me. Jason tweaked my hard nipples with his fingertips, using them to make his point. Why do you put up with this? With me? Do you like being used and abused? I hated when Jason behaved this way. All I wanted was to be in his arms, to enjoy our time together before Captain Cronin came to collect me again. Please, Jason, I'm not your enemy. I'm your lover. He snorted. Whatever. I don't know what you are. I've never met a woman who does the things you do, who acts like you. Sure you're not one of those fucking idiot drones? Standing naked to Jason's scrutiny and spite, my emotions welled up into an explosive mix. The Grand Liquor always did this, made me more passionate. I'm not an idiot, and I'm not your whore. I don't exist for your pleasure and abuse. Slap. His head turned sideways, and he staggered. My palms stung from the hit, but not nearly as much as the hot tears rolling down my face and the aching squeeze in my chest. I live in 2 worlds, Jason. Here with you, and there with him. No one gave me a choice. You have my body. I give it to you willingly. I give you everything. I give you my love. I'd never been one to cry, but the liquor had me sobbing on an emotional roller coaster, and I had to ride it out of my system. He stared at me, not with the vitriol he'd been spewing since I stepped in the cell, more a look of guilt. He closed in and wrapped me in a hug. I cried against his bare shoulder and slipped my arms around him. I just want to survive. To live in their world, the Gran must value me somehow. Jason's strong, lean arms squeezed me tight, and it felt so good. All I wanted was for him to love me, to enjoy these 2 short moments we shared together. Shh, I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do this to you. It's not your fault, Angel. It's me. I can't stand it when he takes you away. You're too kind and beautiful. You've been so good to me. You're the most unselfish woman I've ever met, and I know you're doing this for me too. I have no right to take away your future. Besides, I doubt they'll let me live much longer. Not once you're pregnant. I almost said it then, but I clamped my mouth shut. I hated lying to him. I hated the sick churning in my stomach whenever I thought about my deception. I'm not pregnant yet, and the captain wants babies. Lots of babies. They won't kill you, not if I have anything to say about it. He pulled away and brushed my wild hair from my eyes. You would try to stop them, you strange woman. He shook his head and smiled. We've talked about this repeatedly. You know where I stand. I'm not giving the Gran any of my children, and neither are you. We made that pact, and I hold you to it. He'd made me promise that if I were to get pregnant, we would do whatever it took to ensure our child never ended up in the hands of the Gran. It was an easy promise to make, considering I would never have Jason's child, no matter how much I might want to. His fingers drifted across my cheek, soft and loving. This was the Jason I lived for, the man who made my heart soar and my existence bearable. His eyes drilled deep into my soul. You have no idea how remarkable you are, Angel. I felt like a filthy liar, but his words and kind touch warmed me. I needed this. I needed him for my sanity. First, I'm strange, and now I'm remarkable? You're the one who got captured sneaking around on a grand jump ship. When are you going to tell me the truth about what you were doing here? Every time I pressed him about his captivity, he evaded me. I may have secrets, but so did he. He sighed and hugged me again. I shouldn't. It's not my place to say. Angel, there are officials in the DC fleet who know about Nugene's illegal slave trading with the Gran. If I can get back home with proof, we can end all of this. It's all right here on the ship, Angel. All the proof we need to stop this insanity. I wish I could show people these cells full of genetically engineered worker drones. Earthside media and the colonies would haul the entire Defense Council for treason. This operation is a crime against humanity. I undid the buttons on his faded old jeans and dipped my fingers into the soft curls of his pubic hair, working my way to the thick, warm prize inside. When he spoke with the power of his ideals, he became the sexiest man I'd ever met. I waited for him as my hand clutched his cock. I was sent here, Angel, to investigate. I'll find us a way out of this shithole. You'll never have to cater to these cats again, I promise. Then we'll testify before the World Court and expose their crimes. The liars on the Defense Council who sold out the human race will be held accountable. Someday. He helped me slip his jeans down off his lean, hard thighs and bared his wonderful, large cock, which was already half hard in my hand. Jason had enough libido for 2 men. I helped him strip his shirt off and then lay down on the cool steel bench that served as our bed. I spread my legs for him, waiting for my lover to take me away from this place with the glory of his body joined in mine. His eyes roved up and down my naked length. I could almost feel the touch of his gaze across my hard nipples and wet thighs. He ran his fingers down my knee to my inner thigh and then gently dipped inside me again. I loved the push of his questing fingers as he found that sensitive place where I needed him most. As I lifted my hips to meet his strokes, he smiled. Someday, we'll be together beside a beautiful crystal blue lake, a picnic with a bottle of red wine. Someday, we'll live the way humans were meant to, on solid ground. Someday, yes. Today, all I want is you. I grabbed his arm and dug his fingers deeper inside me. He pulled away and slipped his fingers out slowly. He swirled my warm wetness all over my pussy, making sure I was good and ready. Jason liked to play, to tease, and taste me. I couldn't get enough of his attention. Then he stopped. Breathing hard and fast, I needed him. Now. Instead, he stood watching me slide off the brink of my orgasm. He moved slow and deliberate, slipping up between my legs to hover over me with that wicked grin. I loved when he looked at me like this, so full of promise, so damn sexy. I opened wide to greet him. My heels wrapped around his back, and I scooted my hips to align with his hard-edged thighs. My lover didn't have an inch of fat on him, and I truly enjoyed his sleek, muscular body bearing down on me. He pressed into me with a sweet, delicious kiss while his thick cock rubbed my hot, wet entrance in an agonizing glide. He kissed me harder, deeper, and I swallowed his tongue. In seconds, his cock hardened, sliding into my wetness. I slurped and sucked on his tongue, and my hands pulled his ass, needing more of him, all of him. Ever so slowly, he pushed and worked his way inside me, and I rose up to meet him. Even when he gave me hell, Jason made my life worth living. His hard body pressed against me, cock gliding in and out, filling me again and again. His tongue in my mouth, the world around me faded away. I lost myself to Jason, beautiful, intelligent, loving Jason. He was not all spite and hatred. He was also patient and kind, lavishing endless hours of attention on me and only me. I was his world, and he was mine. All we had was each other. I wished he loved me as much as I loved and needed him, but it was enough. I could handle the imbalance of our relationship as long as I had his attention and all the slow, hard, beautiful sex he could give me. Ironically, my pseudo-father, Dr. Pascal Danton, had made me sterile, and my sex drive was seemingly endless. I had often wondered why I always yearned for the fullness of Jason inside me, but was incapable of procreation. Maybe it was the liquor. In addition to appeasing my need for Jason, I somehow found the energy and strength to please Captain Cronin. No matter what debasement I performed for the captain, Jason was my passion. He intrigued me from the moment I saw him, though he hadn't bathed in days. I looked past the smell to the fascinating, complex man beneath his reddish-brown stubble and shaggy brown hair. I had found someone I could spend the rest of my life with. Slowly, he ground his powerful hips down into me, digging in so hard, he scooted me up to the back wall of his cell. I pushed off the wall and curved my hips to seat him deeper inside me, ever deeper. I needed all of him. Jason's eyes held me entranced. When he stared at me like this, I sensed his soul opening wide, bared for me alone. I took all his love, his passion. These moments I lived for. These peaks of clarity and joy, the certainty that Jason would always be with me, loving me, pleasing me. I prayed he'd never leave my side. I needed him so much. On this ship filled with murderous, slave-trading cats who treated me as flesh to be bought, sold, and used, Jason was my anchor to sanity. I once thought I loved a man, Carver Lydell, the New Gene liaison to the Gran. I now understood that had been nothing more than a convenient affair, a friend with benefits. Carver died as he betrayed me and showed his true worth, which had amounted to nothing. In my heart, the flitting memory of Carver was a blank sheet of paper compared to the intricate masterpiece of Jason. Jason's slow, deep, grinding thrusts pushed me over the edge, and I came for my lover and moaned his name. I gripped his shoulders, convulsing, grinding up to meet him, trying to merge my flesh with his, entwine our souls together as one. His lips descended to my nipple, a lovely sensation in the midst of my climax. Only one thing was missing. "Bite me, Jason. Make it hurt." My hands fisted in his hair. I yanked his head down hard and shoved my breast into his teeth. I loved the sting, but it wasn't enough. He looked up, his gaze questioning. "Are you sure?" I grinned and nodded. Jason saw the fire in my eyes and was brave enough to play with it. He bit me so hard he drew blood. My pain switch flipped, and I soared into the heavens, screaming in joy and ecstasy. Sometime later, I floated back down to the steel slab where my lover's hard body was still heaving on me. My maker, Danton, in his wisdom, had gifted me with enhancements he considered crucial to the advancement of the human race. I enjoyed aggressive, rapid healing, increased agility and strength, intense mental acuity. But the one thing Danton took away from me was pain. My pain flipped a switch inside me, an explosion of sheer euphoria. The intent was to allow me to function with severe injury. I didn't experience pain like other people. Pain was my happy place. Danton had explained this was a mistake, and I needed to be careful. I could be near death and not know it. I wouldn't actually feel the extent of my injuries. I feared admitting this to Jason. To open that discussion would lead to the truth of my birth. Plus, this fact had made many of the doctors on Eugene Station uncomfortable. They even tried to stop me from cutting myself. But Captain Cronin knew my secret. He'd figured out I can heal from injuries within hours, and he seemed to grasp that I actually enjoyed it. Jason shifted his weight inside me and lifted up to look in my eyes. Drunk on liquor, sex, and pain, my vision blurred and then settled on his worried face. Look what you made me do. I hurt you." "Shh, it's okay." I was giggling, happy as can be. "I'll be fine. I like it. I love it." His face squished up in confusion, and I ran my fingers down over the sharp lines of his jaw with all those delightfully prickly stubbles. "I wanted it, Jason. It's okay." "But you're bleeding." "Not for long." He grunted and slid off to the side of me. I turned to him and buried my face in his neck, loving the scent of our sex on his skin. "I love you, Jason. A little pain is nothing compared to how wonderful you make me feel." Back on Eugene Station, I'd never had to explain my peculiar condition to anyone. The doctors and Carver knew what I was, and Danton constantly cautioned me about it. I'd never encountered anyone who didn't already know how different I was from the rest of humanity. I suspected these small differences might be a very big deal to anyone else. If what Jason said was true, Eugene Station was operating illegally, in secret, which made me illegal, a product of a corrupt system. I settled into sleep in Jason's strong arms, praying that the outside world would never discover my peculiarities. that I might never need to explain myself to the man I loved.